Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new Star Wars Battlefront 2 hero concept video. And today is one that a few of you guys have been asking for a fair while now, and that is Jedi Master Plo Koon. Now, you guys may have seen my video yesterday with the Plo Koon mod in the background, but if you haven't, it will be linked on the screen and below down in the description. But Plo Koon was actually a really significant character during the Clone Wars animated series, so that is why we are going to do a concept on him today. Now, keep in mind this is all theoretical and a concept, and I really don't think we will ever see him in the game, but these videos are always fun to come up with, and if you guys want to see more concepts like this, be sure to check out the full playlist in the top right corner. It will be popping up on screen right now so that you can click on that to watch after this video. Now, throughout this concept, we will talk about his play style, health, abilities, star cards, and skins, as well as a few other bits and pieces along the way, so be sure to stay tuned through the whole video and leave a like at the end if you enjoyed it. So starting off with Plo Koon's health, I feel as though he should come in at around 700 to 750 health. Again, this is kind of the average spot for most lightsaber heroes in the game, and I think that Plo Koon should be no different. Now, his weapon of choice is of course going to be his blue lightsaber. However, in Legends, Plo Koon actually wielded a yellow lightsaber, so it would be really cool if we could choose between these two options in Battlefront 2. Now, I will mention this later on in the skins department as well, so keep that in mind. But in terms of damage, the lightsaber strikes I feel should be 120 to the front and 160 to the back. This way you can one-shot most infantry except for heavies and buffed officers, and this is going to keep you around the similar level to most of the other lightsaber heroes. Moving forward from this, we're going to talk about a couple of skins, and there are actually 4 that I managed to come up with. The first of the 4 being his standard Jedi appearance, the second one being a robed appearance, which will just simply have Jedi robes on, similar to the way Anakin and Obi-Wan have theirs in the game, the general skin, which will have the Clone Wars armored gauntlets, similar again to the general skins for Obi and Anakin, and then finally a Legends appearance, which would be the same as the standard Jedi appearance, however it would have the yellow lightsaber. So like I mentioned a minute ago, in Legends he did actually wield a yellow lightsaber, so I think it would be really cool to see this theoretically if he were to ever be added to Battlefront 2. Now let's get on to the meat and the potatoes of the video, which is of course going to be his abilities and his star cards. Now, of course, the passive ability that all heroes have in the game is health on kill. So every time Plo Koon gets a kill on infantry or a hero, then he will receive health back as a reward. So that passive ability just comes with all heroes these days, so it's no different for him. And getting into his actual abilities, he has some really cool ones, and I did a little bit of research behind the scenes, and I didn't know a heap about Plo Koon previously except for what we see him do in the Clone Wars, but I guess in Legends he was a lot more powerful than you actually get to see in canon. So I'm going to go off these abilities that I read about, and most of them, I think one of them you guys will definitely know, but the other 2 you may not, so I'm going to mention those in a bit more detail as well. So the first ability is the one you guys have probably heard of before. It is called Force Judgment, also known as Electric Judgment, and it was a pretty uncommon Jedi ability that acted very similar to the Sith's Force Lightning. The attack consisted of orange and yellow lightning bolts that came out of the user's fingertips, and the damage that it could be done was on par with Force Lightning. So the only difference between this and the regular Force Lightning that we see the Sith use is that this one also crippled the victim, making them stutter and inhibiting their movement. So I can see this working in Battlefront 2 similar to Dooku's lightning stun ability, but instead of having a knockdown effect on enemies, I would see it with a little bit more range and possibly just slowing enemies for a short period of time. I think this would be a cool way to make it differ from Dooku's lightning stun and still have it be really effective. Now, I would give this 120 damage with a 20-second cooldown, and it could hit multiple enemies in front of you, so that way it's still good even though it's got that longer cooldown and a little bit less damage than Count Dooku's lightning stun. The second ability is one that I actually find really interesting, and this is one I didn't know about at all that Plo Koon possessed. He has apparently an extensive knowledge of the physical sciences. In particular, he used his expert knowledge of physics along with the Force to alter the environment. So basically he could create small whirlwinds as well as a dense fog over a limited area to incapacitate an opponent. So the way I see this working is similar to a forward moving version of Palpatine's Dark Aura. This is going to have a smaller area of effect, and basically it's going to create a whirlwind in front of Plo Koon and move in a straight line. So you can imagine firing this down a corridor, and this little whirlwind just basically runs down the corridor, dealing 100 damage on initial contact to any enemies and 30 extra damage per second that any enemy is inside its area of effect. Now obviously this ability sounds really powerful, so I'm going to give it a 25-second cooldown. That way way you pretty much can't spam it at all times. It's something you've got to use strategically and pick your place on where to use it. Moving on to the third ability, and it is called Anya Sef, and this is something I didn't hear about and I didn't know about either, but basically Anya Sef translates into basic as dead brain. This basically makes the activity in the brain of Plo Koon undetectable, and the way I see it working in Battlefront 2 is that it would make Plo Koon invisible on the minimap, as enemies wouldn't be able to detect him. I think for balancing purposes this could also be paired with either a damage reduction or bonus stamina, and it will have a 10-second active time while it is running. So guys, these are the 3 abilities. We're about to jump into the star cards, but let me know down in the comments if you actually knew about these abilities for Plo Koon, because 2 out of the 3 of them I actually had never heard of and didn't know he possessed. So they're really interesting to talk about and see how they would potentially work in Battlefront 2. Moving on though, let's talk about the star cards. The first one is going to be bonus health regeneration, which is 100 points of increased health regeneration. So very similar to the Jedi Resilience card that Obi-Wan Kenobi has. I think as a Jedi Master, Plo Koon is very deserving of this star card. The second one is named Master Swordsman, and this would give him an increased stamina when attacking. For those of you that don't know, Plo Koon was actually a really powerful and skilled swordsman with his lightsaber, so giving him increased stamina when attacking is definitely suited to his character. The third star card I've called Final Judgment, and this gives up to 40 bonus damage to Force Judgment, which basically gives you the ability to one-hit any infantry except for heavies and buffed officers, because it will take the ability up to 160 damage. The fourth card I have given him is called Quick Judgment, and this basically gives a faster recharge time for the Force Judgment ability. The reduced cooldown is by 5 seconds. So instead of having a 20-second cooldown, it would then have a 15-second cooldown. I think this would definitely be a toss-up between which of those 2 star cards I would actually use, or you could try and pair both of them up for maximum stack on top of that Force Judgment ability. The next star card is called Greater Whirlwind, and this is giving you a larger area of effect for the Force Whirlwind ability, which goes up to 20% larger. Now I thought about this and I think this is a really cool card, giving it a bigger area of effect. That way enemies are actually trapped inside that area of the ability for longer, dealing more damage. So I think it could be a really powerful one to use inside hallways. And then following that, the next star card is called Whirlwind Recharge, whereas if 3 or more enemies are defeated during the ability, the cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds. So 2 star cards that you could potentially stack together that would be really powerful used in combination. The next star card again for the Whirlwind ability is called Extended Whirlwind, and this will increase the duration of the ability by 5 seconds, but the damage is slightly reduced. So again, just a different alternative option for that Whirlwind ability with a different star card. And finally, 2 more star cards to go over. The first one is called Silence. So for every enemy defeated during Anya Sef, the duration of the ability will extend by 3 seconds. And Mind Strength is the last star card on the list, which is during the Anya Sef ability, damage reduction or stamina, depending on which one we decide to go to, is increased further. So you would either get more damage reduction or more stamina available to Plo Koon. So guys, I tried to get a couple of star cards for each ability there. I really would like to hear what you guys think. Let me know if you think they're suited, if you think they would be balanced in Battlefront 2 or not. I would love to hear your opinion. And with that said, let's move into a couple of emotes. Now, emotes are always fun and you kind of want to use them when you kill an enemy. So I tried to pick out a couple and I managed to find 2 that I think would be suited that you could use after defeating an enemy. And the first one is your emotions are clouding your judgment, which is something that Plo Koon says to Anakin during the Clone Wars. And the second one is when you ask for trouble, you should not be surprised when it finds you. This is actually said in the 2nd episode of the Clone Wars series, which is called Rising Malevolence. Those are pretty much the only 2 I could come up with as emotes, but I could also imagine some really good voice lines and banter between the heroes, like Plo Koon with Obi-Wan, Anakin, and even Ahsoka if she were to ever be added to the game too. They could all line up with some of the voice lines that Plo Koon has said in the Clone Wars animated series. So let me know in the comments if you guys can think of any other emotes or good quotes from Plo Koon as well, and I would really like to see those down below. But with all of that said, guys, that is everything I have for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Do leave a big thumbs up if you did, because these videos are so much fun to make and I really should do them more often. But let me know which character you want to see one next. And again, like I said at the start, there is a playlist full of these different concepts with characters like Rex, Ahsoka, Ventress, Cad Bane, and a ton of other characters in there. So make sure you check those out as well and comment which one you want to see next. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications so that you you guys can be notified every time I go live or post a brand new video. And with all of that said, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I will see you all in the next one, and may the Force be with you always.
The Sith are all powerful. You are no match for me.